aesthetic surgeon and dermatologist, author, promoter of anti-aging therapies and naturopathy, inventor of the rejuvenation and healing technology. Our guest believes that the medicine of the future is the one that stimulates the body's self-healing capacity. He wants to share the secrets of his success in the medical field, but he will offer practical advices for improving the health and beauty of the skin too. In your applause, Dr. Ilan Karavani.
Thank you very, very much. We'll start with the first slide, and the question is, actually, I'm going to tell you something about generating wealth. The question is, what does a doctor know about health and wealth? So, a while ago, 2008, there was a big economical crash. The Lehman Brothers closed their doors, it was terrible, and a few months later, I was interviewed about what I think about this economical crash. And I said to them, listen, we will continue to have that as long as we don't invest in the best economy in the world. And what is the best corporate in the world? Well, the best company we can learn from is nature. And why is nature such a great economy? Because for the last 3,000-4,000 years that we know the world as it is, we have seen something extraordinary without a government, without police, without banking systems, without anything. Thriving year after year with phenomenal figures. And let's go and see what's going on. You take a €100 bill to the bank in January and you say, I'll come back in 12 months. What can you get me for that? And what they will give you is a few euros, ranging from 1, 2, 3, maybe 9 if you take a lot of risks. Let's see what our economy does with the Dow Jones in 100 years, a century, 200 times. That's what we reach. Well, let's see the best stock that we had in the last decades. Apple, 100 times in 15 years. And let's see now what's happening with growing economies, what we call these double-digit economies like India. Well, we see the Sensex times 60 in 30 years. And now we're going to see what's going on with nature. Now, all these economies, they go alongside a lot of stress, a lot of activity, a lot of yelling, a lot of losing. And we're going to see now what the economy of nature does. We go to the next slide, and instead of investing in our corporate life, our normal corporate life, we buy a chicken. Now we let the chicken roam freely, we get 100 times. And but if you tend to it a little bit, and we'll see the next slide, you get 250 chickens in 1 year. So you see, a €100 bill gives us a few percent, and a chicken gives us 250 chickens. Let's see a grain of wheat, what it does. We see 6 months later, times 50, sometimes times 60 or 65, and when we plant it again 6 months later after a year, we get 2,500 times the return on investment. So that has huge amounts. Let's go and see what it means in percentage. A chicken will give us 25,000% annually, which means if you invest €1 in that type of stock, you will end up 5 years later with €1 trillion. Keep in mind, €1 trillion for your €1. Now we go and we see what the grain of wheat is doing with 250,000% a year. And we see that we get 5 years later for €1, a staggering 100,000 trillion. Unheard of in our economy. Now, let's go further and look at what great philosophers said about nature. Lao Tzu, 2,500, 2,600 years ago, said, nature doesn't hurry, yet everything is accomplished. Who can believe that looking at a field of wheat You generate 5 years later 100,000 trillion, while our man-made economy is struggling, yelling, stressing, crying, and doesn't even get 10%. Next slide. Now, maybe we generate a lot, and maybe the quality is lousy. So let's look at the quality. Well, we see in compressive strength, our bone is 4 times stronger than steel. The same weight, you see, 4 times stronger than steel. And let's see further. The next slide. The hardest material, we thought it was diamond, which is a natural product. We understand that limpets are even harder than diamond. Nature produces the hardest material. Next slide. Now, the tensile strength. Spider silk is in tensile strength stronger than Kevlar and can hold a bullet. So we see that nature doesn't make us lousy materials. It makes us great materials. Let's see the next one. Now, both are 20 years old. You see? Both skins are 20 years old. You got this chair. Now go back to the forward. Okay. On this chair, you see, you only sit from time to time. When you come from work, maybe, and in the weekends. On the other part, you sit the whole day. Okay? Weekends, etc. What is the difference? On the right side, it's connected to life. And on the left side is disconnected from life. Let's go to the next slide. An apple. You take it away from the tree, look what's happening when it's disconnected from life. So there is a secret to life that we have to understand. Let's go further. And what is the secret of nature? Now you understand why a doctor is involved in economy and why they invite me in faculties for economy to give that talk. Well, the human body and nature thrives on what we call homeostasis. And what is homeostasis? Homeostasis is we have preset parameters of everything we have, and we try to correct them whenever it fails. Take, for instance, this hall, okay? It has painting, it has curtains, it has ceiling, etc. Each time something breaks down, we call a repair person. This repair person comes, repairs what is necessary to the standard parameters that we set, and goes away. So it is a kind of a loop, a feedback loop. We call them, repairs, goes away. Okay? Now, when this is done on a regular basis, okay, let's go back to the former slide. When this is done on a regular basis, we keep the products, the materials, our house, our body in perfect shape. Now, let's go to the next one. When we go to a cell, a human cell, we understand that this human cell is visited in the same biofeedback loop. It brings oxygen, information, nutrients, and it goes away with carbon dioxide feedback and waste. Now, how often does it happen? Well, you have your heartbeat, which is 60 per minute. 60 times per minute, our cells are visited, cleaned, they bring the materials, they repair everything, they feed it, and they go away with all the waste. Imagine they would have done that in your apartment, your office, your home. How clean and how perfect that would be. Now, it's even more frequently than that, because the nervous system visits us in milliseconds. So we got visits every millisecond and every second to repair everything in our body. That's why we get those extraordinary results. Let's go further. Now, imagine you have a company, and your company has 40 trillion, 50 trillion branches. This is how many cells we have. And these 50 trillion branches, you just call them on New Year and Christmas, and you tell them, hello, Merry Christmas, and you close the phone. How long do you think your company will stay? It will close probably after New Year. Now, if you call them regularly and you get reports, etc., and it's all centralized, probably you'll have a much better company. If you do it like the body does it, like nature does it, you visit them every millisecond, till every second. You collect all the information, you repair everything, you correct everything, probably you'll have the best company in the world. Next one. How does the body function? Because if you have a company like that, the first thing you would do is a little bit of industrial espionage. You would go and look how it works. How do they get these results? Okay? Even a company who is striving for 3 to 5 years on the stock market, we copy them, we espionage on them, we do everything on them. Here we've got a company that is working already for thousands of years at least, and probably much longer than that. So we see that the body is in separate elements but connected. Let's go to the next one. It's not one thing. It's separated. It's compartmented in small compartments. The organs are separated. Within the organ we have separations. And in the cell itself, it's a separate unit. Let's go to the next one. But it is strongly connected. The nervous system connects everything, and the blood system. We have two systems of connection. And mind this, because this can save your company. The pathway that gives the command is not the pathway who collects the information back. Two separate ways. And you have one which runs through the whole company, which is the bloodstream, and one which runs specifically to a department and back. Because the rest of the body has no business with that. Let's go further. So you see, we have information and feedback. They travel through two distinct different circuits. Afferent and efferent, arterial and venous. Okay? Never through the same. And we don't do that in companies. The guy who gives you the command is also the guy who will listen to your complaints if it doesn't work well. Next one. So we got a global pathway going through whole your company, a memo that everybody gets. Let's go to the next. And we have one which is specific and directed to one specific department with a feedback mechanism. Let's go further. Now, what is very interesting to understand? We always think that the brain dominates our body. That means the mental part, the thinking. Well, it's not the case. It's the heart. The heart gives much more information to the brain, 9 times more than the brain gives to the heart. Which means that we are in fact controlled by what we call emotions. And our emotions, everybody thinks, oh, it's an hysteric thing when we get crazy. No. The heart has a full-blown network of nerves and nervous pathways around the heart who dominates these emotions. These emotions are real. They are electrical. We can measure them. And we try with Ryu to work on that, which will be a fascinating thing. And then we've got commands coming from our gut, which go to the heart and which go to the brain. Now, to function correctly, let's go back to the former one. To function correctly, in our body, we need what we call a heart-brain coherence. You'll read a lot about that. Which means the heart and the brain have to be on the same pace. Which means in a company, you want to run a company correctly, you have to incorporate the female part of the company. Which means feeling what the customer wants and not only calculating the money that it will generate. Next one. So let's start with the brain, okay, which is the center of the command and which gives the command. Next. Now, the brain gives its command to the blood and the nerves. They go to the organs. They go then to the cells, and that goes back to the brain. So the brain gets a feedback from every cell, from 40 trillion cells. It gets a feedback every second at least, but sometimes even much closer than that, every millisecond. Next one. If you compare that to a company, the CEO talks to the board of directors, they go to the departments go to the employees, and the employees, and that's the trick, they talk directly to the CEO, which doesn't happen in companies. You see? And they talk through their own channel. So they don't talk back to the departments and to the board of directors and back to the brain. No, they close the circle and they talk directly to the brain. The brain has a computing power that is exceptional. If you have to take the information of 40, 50 trillion cells and compute it within milliseconds and come back with an answer, you understand this is a powerful machine. Next one. So, if the brain gets commands from the cells and gives commands to the cells, the question is, who is really the boss here? And this has been solved 2,500 years ago when Lao Tzu discovered when the best of leaders' work is done, They all say we did it ourselves. See, this is the impression that you have in a company, that the workers feel that they command the CEO and not the other way around. Next one. So, no man is an island. We have a social role. We are connected. Let's go to the next one. We are connected to each other, which means partner and community, but also local clients and a fair trade, which means get your company connected to the area where you live. Next one. The family, of course. Next. Extended family. Next. And the tribe. We are tribal in nature. A lot of our problems come because we live in something that is much more extended than a tribe, like 4 million people in Bucharest, like I don't know how many hundreds of thousands here in Brasov, and we don't know each other. We are not connected anymore. And this is one of our big problems, which result in a lot of psychological problems. We are made to become tribal, and we are made to connect to the universe. We have to understand what the universal plan is, what the core values are, what our personal DNA is. So there is something that you can do within what we call the zeitgeist. Is this terminology known to you, zeitgeist? Which the time, the quality of the time, okay? Like, we are living in a time where we talk about gender equality, okay? So this is something that is a lesson of our times of now. You cannot go against it, okay? So there are a lot of things that are determined by the time. Now, what I will show you here is examples of good and examples of evil in terms of economy, businesses. Next. Sam Walton started in 1950. He borrowed $25,000 from his father-in-law, opened a little shop, and soon he became the biggest retail store above Kmart, which was the giant, okay? And he made a fortune, which is colossal. How did he do that? Well, he started around in the small villages where they didn't have discount stores. And slowly, slowly, he served the people locally because he believed in something. He believed that people need a bigger power to buy things. With the little money they had, they could buy a lot more. And this was driving Sam Walton. He has, like, what I say, a community sense. Okay? So, and that's how it grew. And it grew through biofeedback. Why? Sam Walton went during the night. He drove hundreds of kilometers to see in small shops what's going on. What do people buy? What are the prices they pay? And what did they get away with? And he came with all this feedback information. He used to drive with anonymously with his truck drivers to understand what's going on. So he got a lot of feedback. Not as much as the human body every millisecond, but still much more than companies in his time. And so, these are a few of the things that Sam Walton believed in. The boss is a servant. Next. The employee is a teacher. And you have to serve the community because the real boss of your company is your customer. All these principles that the body and biology know by themselves. And these are some of Walton's values. Add value, take risks and have faith. Focus on being the best, not the largest. Okay, creative group of people that have your DNA. Very important. Create associations and profit sharing. Share your profit with the people so you are connected. It's all about connection. No ego. And keep your promises, because your promises is what reinforce your connection with your customer. Next one. He became the richest man in America, and still the Walton families, all of them together, are the richest family in the world. Now. See? But they are split, so it's different. And it's still the world's largest company. Don't forget that Sam Walton, Walmart, is still the biggest company in the world. Now, we're going to see what happens when people don't respect the feedback values. And we go to evil. Now, go to the next. What happened here with the Lehman Brothers? They took toxic loans. There is a nice movie, The Big Short, that is on Netflix and elsewhere, who explains the whole thing. They took toxic loans that they gave to people. They made junk bonds out of that. Then criminal organizations gave them a AAA rating based on the rating of the bank, which was not the rating of the bonds. And they sell it to individual investors as a triple bond, and there was no feedback to those who created the toxic loans. So they made all the mistakes against the feedback loop. Next. So what happens? The Lehman Brothers were the biggest bankruptcy we ever knew. So you see, the biggest success in business and the biggest failure in business, all of them because they didn't respect the biological rule of wealth. Now, just got back to that. Okay, what do we do with the workshops that we do about the biology of wealth? We answer questions. What is the DNA of the organization? What is really leadership? Is the CEO really a boss? Do we have to add the heart at the top management? Are the complaints dealt with personally or statistically? Are open offices a good idea? Is bigger really better? And how to toggle between local and global? Are cycles important? How to create a healthy corporate culture? And so on and so on. What means team building for us? And how health affects productivity. We're going to see very shortly a few principles, and then we're done. Next one. 2 loops, 2 channels, we understood that. Build that in your organization, because that's necessary. Next. Okay, a central loop, a targeted loop, and a brain-heart coherence. Next. Now, how to integrate people in your community, in your business. What we do is we look at what can they do, which qualifications, which diploma, but that's not how the body works. The body looks first, when there is a transplant, is the DNA compatible? First of all, let's go back, 1 second, let's go back. Is the DNA compatible? That's one. Once the DNA is compatible, will the body accept the graft? That means, will your company accept your new employee? And that takes months. And only after that, they look at the function, if you can do something. Next. I'm right there with you, okay? Connect with the zeitgeist, because that's important. Your DNA, your soul must connect with the universe. Next. Here we have tests to understand if it's the case. Next. And now we understand that the whole biofeedback cycle takes also into account the universe and others. Next. Now, nature doesn't go for bigger. If nature wants to grow, it makes more and it makes better, but definitely not bigger. Next one. And you see that nature decentralizes. A cell has everything inside what the body has. So they create branches that are greatly autonomous. So not people who depend on the boss. We want to empower ourselves, we want to empower our branches, not to control them from the center. Next. Offices. Separate. Nature has small units, but connected. No open offices. Open offices is a failure. Now, team building. Some of the team buildings are stupid. Taking your whole company on an event of team building, that's not how they connect. They have to understand the process, not the people. Because the people will come and go, but the process needs to be understood. What is marketing doing? What is production doing? What is accountancy doing? How do they function? Next. Complaints at work are very undermining. They put the morale totally down. And we must deal with them through a different channel than the command. And then they must be heard individually, but treated statistically. You cannot change your company because 1 on 40 trillion is not happy. You don't do that way. But you do listen. We do listen. If there is a pain point, we feel that and we listen and we do something. And then here, there are a lot of things that you can learn from nature. The blood flow, where to allocate money. Where do you allocate money in your company? Who needs more money than who? Because it circulates in your company and it circulates in the universe. Next. Reset the mind. Extremely important. The mind must be calm from your employees and yours. And we develop technologies to do that. Ryu and others. Next. Well, what means coaching, HR, burnout, and well-being? It means not mindfulness, not speeches, not trainings, not team building. It means a health check, food, wearables, okay? And communication about the DNA. Next one.
Only just a minute.
A minute, we've nearly finished. The importance of cycles, we have to understand that. It's not always about growth. It is sometimes also about consolidation, which means we need to incorporate a winter, an autumn, and a winter, because shedding the leaves saves the tree. We cannot always grow, it cannot be always summer. The winter is a very valuable period. Next. Okay, the health of your company, physical health, meaning what they eat, your employees, etc., is extremely important. Next. Well, the secret of life is a set of rules. Let's go to the next. And the biology of wealth rules, they apply on all the levels. Not only nature, but also sociology, spirituality. They apply in politics, in your political party. They apply in your corporate life. You utilize that, it becomes great. Next. And what do? We help organizations to rebuild their strategies so they improve their growth, their clarity, and their stabilities by implementing biological rules to sustain your company. Next. And I thank you very much.